Good afternoon. 3 minutes, it'll be afternoon. Technically, it's still morning. How's everybody doing? I need to take those out. I was listening to some stuff, getting my workbench cleared, getting ready for everybody. I don't know if Angelo and Pat Goodwin are on here yet, but if you're in the live chat, let me know. Busy Saturday, hopefully not for everybody. I know I'm not busy. I'm not doing nothing. Well, I'd say I'm snowed in. We didn't get as much as we thought. I think we got about 4 inches or so. So about what everybody said, anywhere from 3 to 5. So, but yeah, we are here in southern Middle Tennessee today. We're going to talk about 2 Civivi knives, new ones. We're going to do some comparisons, and then we're going to have a Bible study. So if you don't want to be part of that, then you can just turn the live stream off. But how's everybody doing? I always debate on whether or not to start the live stream, the actual stream, a couple of minutes early, just to let people start filtering in. And I always want to get started because I'm pretty punctual. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I like to be punctual. It's like the one thing that I can actually control in my life. And so I want to make sure that I'm on time and make sure there's no delays. And so, yeah, I got busy yesterday with, of course, yesterday was Friday, and got busy yesterday with some stuff. We actually have to prepare a Sunday morning service for our church. In the event that we did not meet tomorrow, but I don't know. I think we might be able to meet tomorrow, depending on how. We've got a giant parking lot at our place. It is incredibly huge. You can land a jumbo jet in our parking lot, and so that means that that's a lot of surface area for snow to, get stuck on. And so maybe the sun, I see the sun is out a little bit. It's been very cloudy today, but I see the sun has been out a little bit. And so hopefully we will be on there. What's up, E.T.? How you doing? Don't know what our crowd will look like today. We will be few, maybe, but we will be mighty. Welcome in. Tell me where you're watching from. Goodwin and E.T., I know where you're from, so you don't need to sound off, but you might sound off and put some comments in the live chat to bring people to the video, because the algorithm does not care about anybody. It just cares about likes and comments and live chats. And you only got 1.5. That's okay. Melting quick, becoming slush. Yeah. They say it's going to melt, but then we're going to have a big old drop. That's what's concerning me, is the big old drop in temperature today into tomorrow. I think it's supposed to get down to about 10 or 12 degrees here. So yeah, it'll be nice and frosty. That's for sure. Update on my carry. Hey, I'm after making my video, which got a really good response, by the way. I'm still carrying my Zero Feud. I know it's only been like 6 days, but I'm still carrying my Zero Feud. Still got my tools in here, still got my patches on there. Still carrying every day. Look at that, the Civivi yonder. Really do love it, and it just kind of keeps getting better with age. So I really like it. This is the one that Civivi provided to me. So we'll talk about some Civivis today. Let's see, Matthias. Welcome from Vienna, Austria. A little bit earlier for you this time, I think. I think you've come on the stream before. A little bit earlier for you. It's probably about 12 hours or so. Mr. Goodwin got around 4 inches. Yeah, that's about what we got here in the community. Southern Middle Tennessee. I'll just leave it at that. And was very happy about it. We spent a lot of time outside in the snow, and I spent a lot of time editing video yesterday, just in case. And so that's why we didn't have the live stream yesterday, but really appreciate all of you being there. There's 8 of you right now watching and only 2 likes, so let's make sure that we Like the video if you can. That brings more people to the video. I know I ask a lot, and I know you deliver a lot. So go ahead and like that video and really bring people to there. Ty Singer, welcome, sir. We're going to be doing, I told you, we're going to be talking about a few new Civivi knives today, but we're also going to be having a Bible study, and so I'm really looking forward to that. 2 Samuel chapter 1, and we're going to be studying that. Now, why would you say that I would start with 2 Samuel instead of 1 Samuel? Well, it's because that's what my Sunday morning class is studying right now, and so I'm really looking forward to talking with you about it. But that will be in the second part of our video, so if you don't care anything about the Bible study, would love for you to stay, but if you don't care anything about the Bible study, then you can just turn off the video. No problem, no harm, no foul. It's a cool knife you got there. Yeah, so let's talk about these cool knives here. I've got a little bit of information for you. I am not sure exactly if I'm supposed to be sharing this yet, but Civivi puts out so many new models of knives that I'm not sure. They didn't give me a embargo. An embargo, a media embargo, is something like if you say you cannot talk about this product until, you can't put a video out on this product or pictures out on it until a certain date. I was not given that. Usually I'm not given that with Civivi unless it's something that's pretty high profile, like the Yonder was. But this is the Merit. So I'll go ahead and share it right here. This is the Merit. This is almost a junior version. Let me show you the junior version of what I think of, and I think these are very similar. This is almost a junior version of the Brazen. You see that right there? And I'm sure you noticed the purple micarta on this bad boy right here. That is just, it's amazing. This is a smaller version of this. I love these little notches right here that you get on the, just little flourishes, little design flourishes and whatnot. But this has got you an index flipper, and it is a very nice drop point blade, 3.28 inches. Matthias, I don't know what that is in metric. I guess I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I try to include metric stuff, measurements for the rest of my crowd and the rest of the world. So I appreciate that. But this is an excellent, look at that drop point. I love drop point blades. This is 14C 28N. I've been seeing, I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot of 14C kind of steel blades out there. And it's because it's a fine steel. It's a quality steel. Is it the best in the world? Absolutely not. Is it the most expensive? Absolutely not. That's why so many people are that's why so many people make, what am I trying to say? That's why so many people make the knives out of it. And so we've got 14C on this, got a stainless, or excuse me, all stainless hardware here. You've got a thumb stud, of course, if you want to use that. You've got some nice jimping on the top right there. You've got obviously good action. Action is almost something that is taken for granted now these days, but I was talking with a friend earlier. In fact, I think I was talking to Pap Goodwin about assisted knives. You know, Kershaw used to make those spring-assisted knives, and with the ball bearings, the quality of the ball bearings and the engineering in these knives now, you really don't have to have any kind of assisted opening as long as you've got a pretty good way of deploying the knife. And the detent on this is actually very nice as well. It sits right in there. Give you a little profile picture right there. You've got stainless steel hardware. You got the Civivi mark on the other side. You do have a place for a lanyard on this if you really wanted to. However, I think I'm going to keep this one clean right here. But that purple micarta, I specifically asked for the purple micarta. It just looks unbelievably amazing. Gene, welcome into the stream. Just ordered your carbon nano tube knife. Ooh, tell me what that is. I am uneducated as far as what a carbon nanotube knife is. That's that I would love to know about. While you're telling me, Gene, I'm going to compare this to the knife that is coming out. So this is not a surprise. So I know I can share this one, but this is the Civivi Elementum 2, and this is just an Elementum, but it's a button lock. And so to compare that with the Civivi Elementum that I already have, I've had this one for probably 2 years now, at least. This is actually my son's knife that I gave him because I figured it was a nice, smaller knife. Even though it's got a little bit of a longer blade, he's been beating it up. Can you see that? He's been cutting all sorts of sticks and stuff because he's a boy and that's what boys do. But I put a little lanyard on here for him. Got a little, he's getting a little beat up. This is black G10 on black blade right here. This is a Nitro V blade. I wanted him to have a decent blade. And so this one has a pretty cool detent on it. And you've got that button lock. Well, this is the same thing, same size, same everything, same lanyard hole there, same pocket clip, same black blade from what I understand, because yes, this is a Nitro V blade. Same blade shape, same button lock, except you've got these awesome, and I mean, I wish you could feel this right now, this awesome texture on these aluminum scales. Civivi's been doing some, let me get you a little look on that texture right there. Civivi's been doing some amazing work with the texture on some of their aluminum scales and some other scales as well, like G10 and such. And I'm here for it all day long. I love it. So this is the Elementum 2. This is brand new. Again, both of these knives right here, the Merit Flipper and the Civivi Elementum 2, these are coming out on January 16th. So not too long, 5 days from now, next Thursday, I believe, maybe, Friday. But yeah, next Thursday, Friday, these are gonna be coming out. And very, very cool on that. Gene, I'm waiting to hear about your carbon nanotube knife, whatever that is. I need to Google it now. William, assisted opening knives were a workaround to the legality of automatic knives. You are correct, William. And William, if I may say so, you've got an impressive store of knowledge about knives. Thank you very much, sir. That is true. Assisted opening knives were kind of a workaround. Automatic, they weren't considered automatic. In fact, the very terminology that you could use, saying it's assisted, was not automatic, because you can't have automatic blades, switch blades, things like that are ones that were considered outlawed in many states, in the United States at least. I can't tell about Europe and Asia, but the laws in Europe and Asia as far as knives are much more strict than in America here. And so I know that in certain states you cannot carry even knives or bladed weapons. And in certain municipalities like New York City, I've already talked about that a little bit, you cannot carry those as well. So yeah, I really like the fact that we have gotten away from assisted knives, because that has really slimmed down these knives. Look how slim these are. You got to have an extra, almost like an extra layer for a spring. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is an old Kershaw. That's a Hinderer design. I don't even really know exactly what design, but this is about a 2012, 2014, but it's got a assisted spring opening. And what you've got here is just a way of you actually, and I have sharpened this, I have beat this up, I carried this exclusively for a long, long time. But this is a frame lock, and you'll notice that it doesn't detent, it doesn't come down, you've actually got to force it down. And when you get to the middle part right there, you've actually got to push, it gives you some pushback on it. See, if I let it go right here, see, if I let it go right here, see, it's going to flip. That's a spring-assisted opening. And so Kershaw, Kershaw was not the exclusive people that used that, of course, but absolutely a workaround, like William said. Thank you so much for that information. Gene says, it's new tech. I'm all about the intersection of tech and EDC, I'll tell you that much right now. CNTs, carbon nanotubes, is what he's talking about, are the strongest. This is what Gene says in the comments. I'm reading the comments here. Are the strongest and stiffest material known to man. Interesting. Up to 50 times the tensile strength of steel. They're also excellent conductors of electricity with roughly 1,000 times the conductivity of copper. What company is making this CNT knife, Gene? Color me intrigued. I am very intrigued. I'm going to check this out. Let's see here. Good morning, Angelo. Thank you so much for joining us. Where's the money, Lebowski? Do I look like that guy on that movie? It's a hilarious movie. Terrible language. but a hilarious movie. He peed on my rug, man. He peed on my rug. There you go. That's my only impression of the day right there. So, let's keep talking about this. Carbon nanotubes. Boy, you've got me on this now, Mr. Gene. We are nihilists. We believe in nothing. All right? Is that another quote from that movie? Carbon nanotube knife. This I gotta see. Nano knife. Yo, are you pulling my chain here on the cutting edge? Carbon cutlery. Who is making your CNT knife? Lancet? Is it Lancet, Gene? Wow. Very interesting. Charlie, welcome. Thank you so much for watching. We were just talking about our new Civivi knife, let me make sure I get this correct, the Merit Flipper. This is the Merit Flipper that's coming out on January 16th. And then you've got the Elementum 2 with aluminum scales. Check out those aluminum scales out. Very, very cool. Really, really digging these things. Now, the Merit is actually on the website, so it's not like a secret. So I'll put the link below in the description. It's coming soon. It's a pre-order right now. $61.20. That's very, very good for a Civivi flipper. And of course, the button lock Elementum is going to be a little bit more because it's got a Nitro V blade at $76. And so I think what you've seen in the knife community is that you've got a really good thing from Civivi and other brands. Like I've got some Kaisers over here. None of these knives over here are worth more than, let me just say 90% of these knives over here in my collection are only worth, are less than $100. 90% of them are less than $100. I'd say that of those 90%, 80% of those are less than $75. And so your lower 75 market, your $40 to $75 market here with things like the Yonder at $58. And of course, the new one that I talked about, it's going to come in at around, $61. You've got a market here in the 45 to 75 range that companies have really settled into, because you get a pretty good steel on your knife. So you get a Nitro V on this for $76. You get a Nitro V blade. You get a button lock. You get a premium opening. You get a premium feel. That's important, right? You get a premium feel from it. And so absolutely really good for these companies to be doing this, making these economic options. Is there room for expensive knives? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've got some Protex here. This Protec was $175. It's a tiny little Runt 5. Check this out. You talk about a spring-assisted opening. Yeah, that joker will jump out of your hand. This is one of my favorites, but this is also in MagnaCut. When they're making a premium knife, they're going to put a premium steel on it. If you're going to make a premium knife, you're not going to put 14C in it. You're not going to put AUS 8 steel into it. And so this doesn't have a detent. You actually have to push that back in like that. But this is one of my favorite little knives, a Runt 5 in OD green. I got this at Blade Show 2 years ago. Excellent, excellent. Nope, he's drinking starter fluid. Nope, I'm not drinking starter fluid. It's some fizzy drink that doesn't have artificial sweeteners in it or sugar. Or added sugar. There's sugar in it. That's not added sugar. So yeah, really looking forward to these releasing on January 16th. Tell me what else. What else do you want to hear about? What else do you want to talk about? We've been going for about 20 minutes now. We've got some snow in our area. We've got some different things. I figured that it'd be a good time for a good live stream today, and apologies for not making it yesterday. I'm still carrying my planner. If you saw my last video did gangbusters, by the way. It has gotten 36,000 views in just the last week or so since I posted it. I posted it late Sunday night, so it hasn't even been out for a week. It's been doing really well. And so really happy about that, because some videos, like the video before it, barely cracked 500 views. So yeah. Have you been seeing any drones? You know what? I don't know if you, did you see the case behind me over here, Dean? Did you see the case over here? What is this, I wonder? I can share this. What is this? This right here, I have not been seeing any drones. Well, technically, I have been seeing drones because I have been flying said drones. I got this. This is a drone. Nice little drone right here. You'll be seeing this in a future video because Potenzic reached out. Let me let you see that brand name. Potenzic reached out to the channel, and it was one of those kinds of things like, why are they reaching out to me? Why are they asking to do stuff on my channel, knowing full well that I don't talk about electronics all that much? I talk about EDC. I have wanted a drone for a long, long time. And I'm going to use this. I've already gotten several shots. It's like having a cameraman for you. This shoots in 4K. I've got a controller. I'm not going to go do a full review of this right now, but it's got this crazy controller. I mean, you guys have seen a drone before. I have not ever owned a drone. And so I'm really looking forward to just shooting video with this. I intend to shoot some video this winter and this spring with this thing, but Potenzic sent this out. Very, very cool. The whole package, they sent me like 4 batteries, a charger, the drone, the controller, all sorts of stuff. It's gonna be amazing. It's really funny that you would say drone because I was actually just outside getting some shots of the snow with the drone right before you came out there. But no, I have not seen any of those drones per se, as far as like the drones, right? Is that a thing that's back? I thought that was kind of out of the news for a while. I don't know. Okay, what else are we going to talk about today? My planner is still going very well. I've been using it pretty good. I like my analog planner. I have been using my pouch pretty good. Let's think about. I take that back. I did take out one of the tools to lighten the load. So I've only got your 4 tools here: the driver and the caliper tool that I got from Mech Army right here, and then of course a nice little Phoenix LD02 light and a small little razor cutting tool it's a titanium key unity razor cutting tool that I'm probably going to put, check that out, that thing will cut anything. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to put that on some stuff. I'm really thinking about making this my wallet. I have a wallet. I have a nice slim wallet, but I'm really thinking about making this little thing my wallet and further minimalizing and getting that done. Why would I not? Somebody said, well, why don't you just carry a multi-tool? Why don't you just carry the Leatherman Arc? Okay, Leatherman Arc, that boy is very, very heavy. Granted, you got anything that you want to use for it, anything that you want to do, you could probably do with this multi-tool, okay? The pliers are not spring-loaded, but you've got every tool in here that you could possibly imagine, including something you could interchange bits. You've got a file, you've got all sorts of pry tool, you've got scissors on here, you've got all of this in a combined package. Why would I not just carry a multi-tool instead of carrying all these other little specific tools? I don't know. It's just personal preference, plus this thing is heavy. I want to use this for actual tasks rather than just smaller tasks with this. That's kind of what I'm thinking. All right, 25 minutes in. Any questions, anything that you want to talk about before we get to our Bible study? We're going to do our Bible study. And it's not going to be long. I'm not going to sit here for an hour and a half with you. But this is the portion of the video. I'm going to go ahead and clear off some of these knives. Make sure you go check out the Civivi knives coming out January 16th, the Merit Flipper and the Elementum 2 button lock. So we're going to move some of that around. I'm going to pull up my notes here for my Bible study. We're going to be talking about 2 Samuel. Now, if this is the portion where if you don't care anything about a Bible study, if you don't care anything about a Bible lesson, then go ahead and click off the video. I appreciate you being here so far. But we are not going to argue about stuff here. Afternoon, Dwayne. Thank you for being here. Wesley, I am from North Alabama. I grew up in North Alabama. And so that's where I called home for 18 years, went into the Marine Corps for 4 years. Oh, by the way, check out this awesome shirt I got for Christmas. 2nd Marine Air Wing, baby. That's what I did in the Marines. So, really cool. But afternoon, Dwayne, and we're going to be talking in the Bible study here. We're going to be talking about 2 Samuel chapter 1. So if you want to go ahead and turn there, that's what we're going to be looking at. Now, I will say, I don't normally, I'm not going to get into any kind of conspiracy kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into any of that kind of, I'm not going to argue with you in the comments. I'm not going to, if you say something that's kind of crazy off the mark, we're going to study Scripture. We're not going to go out into all this other stuff necessarily. We're going to study Scripture and what it says for us. And that's what we're talking about. So, William, you've already got a little bit of commentary going here. 2 Samuel 1, I believe that is the transition of Saul to David as king. It is. Now, if you don't know anything about this book, say you're coming in cold, you don't know anything about 2 Samuel. What we've got here, 1st and 2nd Samuel were originally one book. So when you think about how the Bible was written, Bible wasn't written with chapter breaks, with verse breaks, with even book breaks from 1st to 2nd Samuel, volume breaks, things like that. They were written as just one thing, one scroll. It wouldn't have been broken down. Verses and chapters were added later for organizational purposes. Not exactly sure when that happened, but I would imagine that it was probably somewhere around the 11th, 12th, 13th centuries or so. What we have now is our modern Bible is likely due to a lot of different transitional things that happened during that time. But what we have in 2 Samuel was written, it was written right after the reign of David, okay? Possibly during the reign of Solomon, okay? So that's put a time around it for you. It was written in 925. Hello, John. Thank you for joining us. It was written in 925 BC. However, the time period that it takes place in is not 925. In fact, it's somewhere, I believe, between 1010 and 970 BC. So a little bit of historical kind of stuff for you there. This is a period in Israel's history. David has conquered many of Israel's enemies in the land of Canaan. He's ultimately kind of making Jerusalem his royal city. The Jerusalem was not his city. Zion was a religious center for the nation. And listen to this. This is a crazy stat from about the city of Jerusalem, okay? So the city of Jerusalem has been demolished, completely destroyed twice. It has been sieged 23 times. It has been attacked 52 times. And it has been captured and recaptured, listen to this, 44 times. Those stats are mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. And so I think that we can understand kind of what is happening here when we come into 2 Samuel. In the book of 1 Samuel, what has happened? You get the famous story of Samuel's birth, the book that it's named after, his leadership. Israel wanted to be just like everybody else. They wanted to have a king. They said, Syria has a king, they got Mesopotamia they have a king, Babylon has a king, we want a king too. And so they wanted a king. And so David rises here to succession, okay? And he gains fame by doing stuff like defeating Goliath. That's an incredibly common story. But he gains all this fame by defeating Goliath, this Philistine giant. You've probably heard of David and Goliath. That's a thing. If you don't know anything about the Bible, you know that David was a small boy. Goliath was a huge 9-foot guy, giant, right? And so if you don't know anything about the Bible, you know what that story's from. So David, and I will tell you, David is, other than Jesus Christ, to Israel, to the Jewish nation, even today in 2025, David is the most important figure that they've ever had. His star, the Star of David, is still on their flag today in 2025. So when you're talking about this idea right here, what happens is David is anointed king. Saul knows this. And Saul is obviously not going to like that very much. He is not going to like all that stuff that's about to happen to him. He repeatedly tries to kill him. He grows very, very jealous. David, though, however, spares Saul's life twice. Twice he could have killed him, and he does not. And he demonstrates humility in that. And so Saul's reign ends in tragedy here. And so what we're reading here in 2 Samuel chapter 1 is this idea, this theme of faith and obedience and God's sovereignty, okay? Now I want to begin, before we actually read 2 Samuel, a little bit here in chapter 1. I want to kind of illustrate this for you. So life has a way of coming at you fast, doesn't it? Do you know what that means? Life has a way of really coming at you in an unexpected way. Rarely are you prepared for some of the things that happen to you. And so things catch us unprepared. About, it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago on January 4th, as a matter of fact, my father passed away due to complications from COVID, as well as other things with his health. And it was completely unexpected. He went to the hospital the day after Christmas, and he was gone 8 days later. It was completely unexpected for me and my family. It was a crazy time. Something like this may have happened to you. I will tell you right now, I have never known grief until then. I thought I did. I had never known grief until then. Losing my father was life-changing in a terrible way, but also an awesome way, because God has managed to allow me to see certain things in my life that need value as well. And by the way, if you guys have got any comments, I'm just sitting here talking. If you got any comments or observations, feel free to put them in the live chat. I'll go ahead and read them. But grief is something that is handicapping. It's debilitating. It's debilitating. John, that's right. My world changed as well. My world changed completely. And it was so unexpected. And it took me a while. I wouldn't say I've ever gotten over it. You don't ever get over the death of a loved one. You don't ever get over it. It just becomes, and this is a terrible way to say it, but I'll go ahead and say it, it just becomes less over time. Does that make sense? It hurts less. It kind of makes me angry just a little bit that it hurts less today than it did then, because I kind of want it to hurt. But grief is something that all of us are going to have to deal with at some point or another, okay? And so where we find God and where we find David here at the beginning of 2 Samuel is in the middle of grief. He has lost what he calls a true friend. Now, it's ironic to me that Saul, who was, I wouldn't necessarily, he was evil, he did evil things, right? He was never supposed to be the destined king of Israel. That was going to be David all the time. It was God's intention for that to happen. But what happened here is that Saul got so jealous, he lost his mind a little bit. He tried to kill David, and yet David here in chapter 1 is still grieving the loss of not only Saul, but Jonathan, his son, and his king. Even though this king was after him, trying to kill him, trying to hurt him and remove him from the picture, David still grieves here for a loss. And I think that's incredibly telling. There's major events here that happens. Now, the theme of our study, and we're going to continue to study 2 Samuel here on subsequent Fridays. We stream every Friday. And we're going to stream every Friday at 2 p.m. most of the time. 9 times out of 10, we'll be streaming on Fridays. This is just on Saturday. Maybe getting a different crowd today. But really appreciate you, Pat Goodwin, for saying that. I know exactly what you mean. Grief is something that can be completely debilitating to us. And here in 2 Samuel chapter 1, this is what happens. Let's read. Okay, I'm going to read directly from the Bible. This is not any kind of weird commentary. This is not any kind of weird version. I'm reading from the English Standard Version. It's not anything special about it. It's just the version that I use. 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 1. After the death of Saul, when David had returned from striking down the Amalekites, David remained 2 days in Ziklag. And on the third day, behold, a man came from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dirt on his head. Interesting. When he came to David, he fell on the ground and paid him homage, and he said, "Where do you come from?" David said this. "Where do you come from?" And he said, "I have escaped from the camp of Israel." And David said to him, "How did it go? Tell me." And he answered and said, "The people fled from the battle, and also many of them people have fallen and are dead. And Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead." I want you to think about this for a second. Then David said to the young man who told him, "How do you know? How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" And the young man who told him said, "By chance I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and I was there, and Saul was leaning on his spear, and behold, the chariots and the horsemen were close upon him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me and called to me, and I answered, 'Here I am.' And he said, 'Who are you?' I answered, 'I am an Amalekite.' And he said to me, 'Stand beside me and kill me, for anguish has seized me, and yet my life still lingers.' So I stood beside him and killed him, because I was sure that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown, and I took the crown that was on his head and the amulet that was on his arm, and I have brought them here to my Lord." What's happened here? What has happened here is that David has just finished doing this. He comes from another camp. One of the Amalekites, the people that they were fighting, come from another camp. This one guy says, "Hey, I know what happened. Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." And the first response of David is what? How do you know? How do you know that's true? Denial. Denial is one of the stages of grief. We're going to talk about those here in just a second. And by the way, all of our Bible studies are not going to be this somber. We're going to have some that are a little bit more exciting, a little bit more positive, right? But this is a somber subject. Verse 11 says, "Then David took hold of his clothes and tore them, and so did all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan his son, and the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword." This guy tells of this account, this soldier, this unnamed soldier. He says, "Yes, I know that he's dead because I did it. I was there." In these days, there was a understood agreement here that you let people know these things. You weren't out to take revenge on these different kinds of things. And so this idea here, he comes and he says, "Where did you come from?" in verse 13. "How is it that you were not afraid to put your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" And David called and executed him. So this was getting this was avenging for Saul. And so what happens here? In verse 17, we're not going to read the whole thing, but in 2 Samuel 1:17, David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and Jonathan. He says, "Your glory, O Israel, is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen." Verse 22, "For the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back. The sword of Saul returned not empty." Verse 26, "I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant you have been to me. Your love was extraordinary, surpassing the love of women." Not a homosexual reference, by the way. A lot of people have tried to latch onto that and say, "Oh, Saul and David and Jonathan were together." No, that's not what this is. The Hebrew words don't add up to anything like that. "How the mighty have fallen," verse 27, "and the weapons of war perished." But then what happens here? Verse 1 of chapter 2. This is the only verse we'll read of chapter 2 right now. He says, "After this, David inquired of the Lord, 'Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah?' And the Lord said to him, go up? David said, to which shall I go up? And he said, to Hebron. Now that may seem like an insignificant phrase to you, but that was David moving on. That was him accepting. Let's go and talk about that for here just a little bit. David here is lamenting. He is grieving over Samuel. David and Jonathan grew to become like they were twins. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It was almost blood brother, William. The language does not mean, in verse 26 there, the language does not indicate any kind of inappropriate relationship. It indicates that they were just incredibly close, like a brother and a sister, right? Like siblings, like family, even though they weren't part of the same family. Here's three things. We're gonna wrap this up. I don't want this to go too long. I don't want to do very much with you, but let me know down in the comments if you have enjoyed this. If you have, I really appreciate it, and we'll keep studying. We will. We'll keep studying on Fridays. Our relationship with God must be strong before tragedy strikes. That's the thing. Our relationship with God must be strong. Back in 1 Samuel chapter 30, it very simply says, all these things were about to happen. Saul was about to be killed, but what happened with David? David found strength in the Lord his God. Why is it sometimes difficult to see God in our grief? Why? Why do we get blinded by our grief sometimes? Why do we reach out and blame and different things like that? Listen to this. And you've heard this before. If you've ever read anything on grief, you've heard this before. Psychologists often refer to the 5 stages of grief. What are they? What are they? Denial, grief itself, anger, depression, and acceptance. Now, hardly ever do those happen in that order, right? But they will happen, and you don't know the length of what those are going to happen. Okay? Listen to this. David encounters and deals with all of these in just the first chapter. Look at it. 2 Samuel 1, verse 5. Denial. Are you sure they're dead? That was his gut reaction right there. How do you know? How do you know they're dead? The guy could have been lying, right? Maybe, hopefully he was lying, because I don't want my king, even though he tried to kill me, and I don't want my friend Jonathan to be dead. How do you know? Chapter 1, verse 12. They mourned and wept. Grief, that's the grief part of it. Chapter 1, verse 14. What does he say? Why? How is it that you were not afraid to put this together? Why? He asked, why? That's the anger part of it. That's when he executed the Amalekite. That's the anger part of it. There was a depression here in verse 26. He says, I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. There was depression, chapter 1, verse 26. There was then, in chapter 2, verse 1, what we just got through reading, an acceptance. After David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up to one of the cities of Judah? This is his acceptance. What has happened has happened. It is time. I'm about to be the king. I'm going to be the king. Now what do I do? Now what happens? I have accepted what has happened, and now I'm moving on. Now, I will say that in our grief, acceptance doesn't mean giving up. Acceptance doesn't mean forgetting. Acceptance doesn't mean that we are laying it aside and just not thinking about it anymore. There was a string there of days where I could not stop thinking about my father, right? Angelo, it's okay, buddy. No problem. You can catch it on the flip. But when we think about this idea, when people are grieving, we have those common phrases, right? Now, I do want to wrap this up. I will say that healing from our grief is a process. Everything in our lives is a process. You know, I'm a big fan of Alabama football. Nick Saban used to talk about the process. It's not just a light switch that's being turned on and off, right? It's not just a thing like that. William, let's read what you had to say. David had a major issue with when he became angry, he would act on impulse and didn't always make the best choice. Goliath was a good choice, but the decision didn't always work out that way. Was he justified? Here in verse 14, 15, 16. Was he justified to kill this guy? It's an interesting question. Did he do it out of anger? Yeah, I think so. Are we irrational and we do really stupid things when we're angry? Absolutely. William, I think you make a great point. Anger can sometimes be a fuel, but most of the time it's a deterrent, it's a crutch, right? It's something that kind of gets in our way, clouds our judgment a little bit, right? We talk about all the Star Wars phrases, right? Anger clouds judgment, all those different things. Yeah. And the decision didn't always work out that way, William, did it? So there's a lot. David is going to, and William, you make it a very important point that I will expound on before we end. David is going to make a lot of mistakes. He was nowhere near perfect. And if this is the first Bible study you've ever encountered or ever seen on the web or ever listened to, then hear this. The Bible is not about perfect people, except for Jesus, obviously. The Bible is not about perfect people. It's about people who made mistakes. It's about people who were sinners. It's about people just like you and I. There's nothing special about these people other than the fact that they found themselves in situations that were blessed and anointed by God. That's where David found himself as well. So, grief is not a pleasant place to start my first Bible study here, but I thought that this would be appropriate to talk about. 2 Samuel chapter 1. Homework for next week is to read 2 Samuel chapter 2. We will be talking about 2 Samuel chapter 2 and what happens there. And I look forward to our next Bible study, and I hope that you do as well. Let's see. Work turned into for 30 minutes at lunch. Got to head back. Enjoy the Bible study. Really appreciate it. Andy, thank you very much, and we will hopefully be doing it again. I would love to hear your thoughts on this passage of Scripture, and we will continue to study 2 Samuel. That's all for today. Thank y'all very much. We've been live for about 47 minutes, and we will be back at Friday at 2 p.m. next week. Be back on Fridays. There may be some winter weather moving in, but I'm going to try to keep that Friday at 2 p.m. Slot, and so hopefully we can maintain some consistency with that. Thank you very much, Angelo, William, Andy, all the people that stuck around to the end. And if you're watching on the rewatch here in the live replay, please like, subscribe. Thank you so very much for being here. We don't always do Bible study. I'm not going to do Bible studies every single time that I do a video on this channel, but I did want to do them on part of the live streams and everything because people had asked for it, and I am absolutely willing to do that. If people want to study the Bible, then I am not going to be an impediment to that, and I would love to do that. 2 Samuel chapter 2 next week. Thank y'all so very much. Have a great weekend. Be safe in the snow if you've got snow in your area, and if not, then have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.